Dearly beloved, we have gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Life, L.Y.F, stands for Love Yourself First. I'm your hostess, Cola Taylor, and I'm joined here today with my mommy, Dr. Annette Taylor, retired gunnery sergeant. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast.
Oh, most definitely. So it's a special edition because it's Mother's Day.
Yay. Happy fingers.
And we celebrate moms, and I definitely, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big mama's girl. Everybody knows this. But one of the things I love the most is how smart she is. She is unbelievably smart. Yes. And she's running a lot of public and private sectors in the HR departments, correct?
That's right.
That's right.
I've also been an adjunct professor for a couple of universities and teaching that same genre, HR, human resources. Mm-hmm.
So she has a wealth of knowledge to give, especially about the interview process, which people need help.
Yes, they absolutely do. You can't say it better than what you just finished saying. Absolutely. And I'm here to impart all of my experience, and not only as a hiring official, but also as a person who made a few mistakes when I was trying to leave the military. Of course, 20 years in Marine Corps, it's difficult to get rid of that type of culture and that type of way of life in the way you speak, in the way you walk, in the way you talk to others. So I just want to share some of that with your audience, because I believe we have so many people as a hiring official that we overlook only because they didn't have the opportunity to sharpen their tools, to do mock interviews, to see where they could improve whatever it is that they might need to improve. And everybody needs improvement. We'll talk about that too. But I don't want to take over your podcast. Am I talking before you should be asking, or?
No, I mean, wherever you fit in, go for it.
Go for it. Do my thing.
Yeah, do your thing.
All right.
Do the
Happy
razzle
fingers.
dazzle. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, first off, let me say to everyone here, I'm talking on my own experiences. I am not representing an agency. I am not representing government, non-government, local, civilian, whatever. I am not. I'm only giving you some of what I've did so that you don't do that. I always say, don't go down the road that I have already traveled. My goal is to make sure that you're better than I am, and that you leave with something that you can say to yourself, I didn't think about that, but I absolutely did do that. And so I wanted to say that first. This is a disclaimer because some people might see this and say, wait a minute, I know where she works. Please don't do that. This is only for nurturing. It's your life journey. Let me help you get to where you want to be. That's my whole goal in life. It's always giving back. And so before I start, do you have a question that's burning in you right now that you would like me to start off with?
I just want us to start at the beginning. What do you do first to prepare for these interviewing processes?
Excellent question. I like that you said that. I like that you said that because I want to tell everyone, and I tell this to my mentees all the time, if you were called for an interview, you already have the job. I'll say that again, because people, what do you mean? If you were called for an interview, you already have the job, because whatever is on that resume is really your first interview. If you've passed that portion, then that means you've sparked enough to me and or my panel to say, this is a person that I want to make sure is on our team. The only hang up that you have at that point, as with any race, is you're competing against other people just as great as you are. I'll say that again, just as great as you are. Mm-hmm. There are people that are going for a position. And again, from my experiences as a hiring official, I'll have people on my team that are had also applied for that position. So they're competing along with you. You don't know that because all you know is I put this information inside this portal. These people called me. I'm going to do what I can do for that interview. Here's the thing. You need to make sure that whatever you do or whatever position that you are applying to, that you have done your absolute research. And that means as soon as you hit send, that's when you start looking at that position, stay focused on that position that you applied for, and see, what does that company do? How does that fit with what my morals are, my values, what I can do for the company? Here's a good segue. You hear me say, what I can do for the company.
Right.
Too many times, people will interview for a position, and at the end, we'll ask, so do you have any questions for us? The canned response is, how's the teleworking? Where's the location? Am I applying for a position that's vacant? What made the other person, if it weren't vacant, what made the other person leave? Well, that's great, but this is the opportunity for you to interview me. How do you know I'm your good fit? You're probably leaving a supervisor that you did not really agree with, that you might have had some great visionary type of ideas. They were turned down for whatever the reason is. It could be the culture of the organization. It could be because you're ahead of their time. It could be resources are not there for whatever it is that you're asking. But now you want to leave to try to make sure that that part of you is nurtured. That's what you're wanting. I say this, when you're asked, are there any questions that you have for us? That's your opportunity to say, and you need to write this down, rewind it many times. I don't care what you do, but please put this in your ear and say it at the end. Yes, I do. I would like to know what you believe is the ideal person working for you. Now you've turned the script.
Right.
You're going to hear something from that hiring official that you really need to hear. Either the hiring official will be pro team, and if that's you, that's what you want, or that hiring official will be very silo type conversation. And if that's not you, if you want it to be left alone in that silo, that's great. Again, these are things that are going to come out from that question that will let you decide, do you really want to work for this team, for this person, for that particular organization? Don't be fearful of being a little conceited. And I say that to say this. So many times I'll hear a person say, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I think I messed up. Please forgive me, I'm nervous. That, for me, as a hiring official, for the positions that I'm asking for, which are mid-level to grades up, I don't want to hear somebody say, I'm nervous, oh my gosh, and get flustered, because I need you to take my place. I need somebody confident enough to say, you know what, Dr. Taylor? I might not know the answer to that question, but I heard some key words in that question, like strategy. I heard other words such as analyze. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this to what that term means to you. However, for me, I strategize by ensuring that I am doing the most updated research for what is asked of me by my supervisor. I then put that into a PowerPoint and I write down justifications on why it will work for the organization. The result has been, I've gotten performance awards. I've gotten more of those types of meetings. I've been deemed as the subject matter expert for my organization. I've done all this within a year. I've done all this within 2 years. I've gained trust and networked with organizations and stakeholders that have not been a desirable customer. However, I've gotten them on board within that time that I've been with that organization. You've just told me by just saying something as simple as that, you don't know. Yes, you're nervous, but hey, I listened to what you had to say. And in that conversation and in those words, this is how I applied it to what I'm doing right now.
It sounds so simple when you say it, you know? It sounds very simple when you say it. But just to go back, because you mentioned most people are leaving their jobs to go to another job because they're not happy where they are. So being that as it may, whenever that question comes up of why are you leaving your last position? You know, of course, everybody wants to say, I can't stand those people, you know.
That's what they really want. Look, their really eyes say that.
Right. But what can you actually say that's not going to reflect negatively on you and on that prior company that's going to make you shine a little bit brighter without saying, you know, I hate them?
No. Well, what you do is you say what it is. You don't have to say anything negative. Let's not put anything negative in the atmosphere.
Right.
Let's not speak badly about whom we're leaving.
Right.
But what you're saying is when they say, tell me the reason why you're leaving your organization that you're applying to this position. You focus on the last. What someone says last is really what they mean first. Why are you coming to me? So I, in turn, will say, I looked at your organization and I see the growth in it. You look for something, and that's why I say you have to do your research first. As soon as you press send on that application, because now I'm focusing all their questions on their organization. That was a big mistake that I made. When I first left the military, I was very matter-of-factly, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do my research to the organization. Wrong. Because when they asked that question, I didn't have anything else to say, but, well, I just finished retiring from the Marine Corps. I need a job.
Yeah.
I have to pay my mortgage. No, here's a good answer for that. I saw what your organization does. I believe I would be an asset to it. I'm looking for growth. I'm looking for mentorship. I'm looking to make a difference in which department I go to. And it's my hope that I can meet that standard. Now, here you go. If they ask you that question and they give you the opportunity to ask a question of them, turn that around. Now, if they ask you that question, your question will be to them. I noticed that your organization has been awarded the training developers of the organization. Tell me how I can do that and continue and sustain that type of practice. You just turned it back on them. Again, you're learning from the people that's interviewing you. Now, caution. This is an Annette situation that happened when I first came out of the Marine Corps. I was, that I'm a Marine, blah, blah, blah. And I got to the point where they said, well, do you have any questions for us? I researched so much and I really wanted this job because I knew I can do this job over and beyond what was practiced because they hadn't won an award. I knew I could get them there. And through my research, I noticed that they had a gap in some of their HR standards. I said, I can get them there. I ended up interviewing the supervisor, the director that was interviewing me. I said, well, tell me about your practices on human resources, because I noticed you have a gap here. And you see my face? This is the face they're hearing because it was a phone interview. So the face they're hearing is me. Tell me about that. And I also went on to say, I noticed you hadn't won any awards, but there are these 3 awards that I believe I can get you to that point. Now, let's change that camera to self. And that director was more than likely saying, who in the world does this person believe she is?
Right.
Telling me I haven't won an award. Well, who? I did not get the job, needless to say. But the funny thing is about that, as I kept looking for jobs. 2 weeks later, the same position I interviewed for was reposted, and all the questions, I had 5 hard questions. All the questions that I asked of her in that panel were on the new job announcement.
Stop it.
I kid you not.
Affecting change, even when you're not even there.
Not even there. So, and I applied again. And this time I was told I did not qualify for the position.
Wow.
Oh, yes. And my resume was pristine. But, which is a good segue. I'm glad I said resume. High five, Mom. If you have someone type your resume or assist you in that resume, because everyone needs help in their resume. We understand that. I'm going to talk about 2 things. The first one is, don't let somebody place words inside your resume that you cannot do, because it will come out during the interview. And not only have you wasted your time, but you've wasted my time too. There are times I look through resumes and it's obvious that they paraphrase from the announcement. And I'm saying to myself, you didn't even have the courtesy to change some of the words. You did it word by word. And I read resumes from the top to the very bottom, because I want to make sure that I'm giving that candidate the opportunity that they so deserve. If they're applying for a position, that means they want to go some at either in the same organization or within the same group, but they want to make sure that they're in a better fit maybe. But when I see that, I'm saying, well, gee whiz, I'm looking for somebody that can think outside the box, which means I don't mind you paraphrasing, but word for word. And I'm not going to know. It's my job.
Right.
It's the position.
I put it out there.
I'm the one that wrote this, of course. And so that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is, of course, you'll have somebody writing it for you, and then you'll have someone that will write their own and they'll paraphrase it. But thing number 2 is they try to make themselves fit where they don't. They overextend what they've done in that other organization. I know I've been in the game for so long that I know practically what every position has done and what they do for the level that they are. You can either say it by your salary level, or you can say it by your grade level, or you can say it by, I've been at this organization for X amount of time. I know that you are not the director, but yet you have director language in there.
Right.
But your entry level, I can tell your entry level because of the progression of the resume, which is why I read the entire resume. You can't tell me you're the director or you're the executive as it's written on your resume. Be truthful in that. Do you have another burning question?
I do, actually.
I can see it in your face. Go ahead.
It's like, can I go now? Can I go now?
Yes.
Okay.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mom's Day. So I guess when you get the interview, they tell you who some of the people in your panel are going to be. Should you research those people before you actually go into the interview?
Excellent question. If you have the opportunity, absolutely. Because again, you will learn from what they've done, how you should respond to any of the questions that come up.
And that could kind of like segue into something else also, right? If you guys are a part of the same organization, like a fraternity, sorority type of thing, or if you guys do the same kind of charity work, that can kind of help you out with the whole interview process, can it?
It could, because you will hear questions. Like I said, some of those questions are meant to stump you. So don't get flustered. I've heard that, oh, did I answer that right? Get over that. That question is done. It's fired down range is what I call it. And it hit the target.
She's so military.
You're 20 years, baby.
Right.
So what you want to do when you get to those questions that are, hear me now, it's meant to be difficult. It's meant to challenge your mind. There will always be at least 2 or 3 of those, especially if the hiring official has 10 or more questions. There will always be that one or 3. So if you didn't understand it, or maybe it's a language that you don't use for your particular position, but you actually do it, you can use that part that you're saying if you're in the same organization or you're in the same fraternity, sorority, volunteer group. You can use that type of experience from those different organizations that you're a part of. Let's say you're not a part of any group, but you're a parenting or a person that does a lot of
like
I'm your
PTA
uncle
work.
type of work, right?
Oh,
Saying, you know what, I mentor this part. You mentor your community in some sort of fashion that you're unaware of. If people are calling you uncle, but you're not that biological uncle, or you're not that biological aunt, guess what you are? You're a mentor. Because kids are not going to say that, even young adults, they're not going to call you by a title unless you are that type of mentor. Read up on mentor. What does that really mean? It's quick, go to Google and you'll see where it started. It started in Greece, where the ship captains were going out and the warriors were going out and they needed somebody home on a home front, taking care and making sure that their children were doing the same things and upstanding citizens, just as their father was going out. And I say father only because that was the time. Don't send any hate mail. That was the time then. These are the ADs, okay, right. And BCs, okay. So absolutely use that to your advantage. Use it to, especially at the end of the interview when they said, do you have any questions for us?
Okay. So more and more interviews are being done online. What are some things that they should look out for? I know one thing is probably their environment, right? Like what's around them, what's behind them, because everything is coming through the camera most likely, or even telephone interviews, like reducing the noise around you, right? So what are some other things that they might want to stay conscious of?
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to give a couple of true situations that happen. Of course, because of COVID, and even before COVID, sometimes we have people that are in areas that are not at the headquarters where I am. So we have to do a video call. Please don't look up what I'm asking you while we're on video. Hello?
Especially if you wear glasses.
You have a set of panel people, and unfortunately the people have glasses on because of course some need their glasses to read off a screen. So I had a few that were, I asked a question. They said, okay, can you repeat that? And there's no points for asking to have anything repeated. There's no points taken off or anything. Nobody's thinking badly of you. It's good to ask again to make sure that you have clarity of what's asked of the hiring official or panel member. And when we ask the question again, we see this typing, and you can see this, how the screen changes color because it goes from light to dark, off the reflection off their glasses and off their forehead. And then they say, no kidding, this has happened on more than several occasions. So I see here that it says, oh, well, high five you,
right,
for at least having the sense to look up something you didn't know, but in your resume, you have it listed here at 3 different occupations that you've done this for more than 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Another person has done it more than 1 year for each of those positions that that person was in. So again, it's a video interview. We're going to see everything. We had a time where we can tell they either had an animal or a small child because they kept looking down as they were answering. And you see how my head was moving from left to right really quickly and darting, and they were doing the hand gesture down. And then they had to have the question asked of them 3 times. Okay, are you fine right now to interview? Oh, yes, I just got a little distracted. Okay, all right, just let us know if we need to stop the interview. So that's happened. So it's always good, go to a library, go to the bathroom if you need to. Explain to the panel members, I do have small children, and sometimes they're unaware that I'm on an interview. Some hiring officials will understand. Other hiring officials will say, you know what, if that's the case, then I'm trusting you to work virtually. I see right now that you already have distractions and we're just on an interview. What's going to be the situation when I have a big project that needs to be done within hours? Are you going to be there? So absolutely make sure that you are all present, which is a good segue of something I have to say.
Okay.
If you're going to get a call for an interview, it is imperative that the night before you relax and you take the opportunity for self and recognize what do you want from that company. That will relax you for your interview because you'll note that it's not them interviewing you. I'll say it again. You have to interview them too. How do I know that you're going to like me? And then you're stuck with me until you leave again. And how many times on your resume will it reflect this person has been at this organization for 2 years, this organization for 1 year, this organization for 2 years? If you're a hopper and you're not in the Washington, D.C. area where it's common, but if you're an actual hopper, some hiring officials will look down on that. I'm just going to be totally honest, because they'll say, I need somebody with longevity. I cannot train someone up for this culture, for this atmosphere, for what the need is. And then 2 years down the line, that person is gone, because it will take 1 solid year for a new person coming on, knowing the organization or not, to learn what that department does. That next year, they're putting in place what they've learned for that year and how to implement it for the projects that they have been provided by the supervisor. That 3rd year, they're running a race to be my replacement, because that's how we are geared to make sure that we have a succession plan. And that succession plan is every direct report that comes to me, I figure is my replacement. Even if they say, no, I don't ever want to be a supervisor. Well, sometimes you're going to have to act. Sometimes I'm going on vacation and Nicole, you're it, tag. I know we have 5 team members, but you're it for this week. Make it happen. And when I come back, please don't burn down the building.
You hope to have something to come back to at that point.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's when good training comes into play also, so is that something that you should ask during the interview also, like what their training plan is, or what it entails? Or because I know like some places are like, fly by the seat of your pants type of training, like they just throw you right into it, whereas others actually have a program to build you up into it. So is that something that you should know ahead of time?
Absolutely, because again, you're interviewing the company as well as the company is interviewing you. And if they don't have a training program or mentoring program or a shadow program, or we also have detailed programs where a person can go for as long as 120 days and get extended to learn a different position or a position that's elevated up. If that is what you're looking for, it's good to find out during that interview process instead of getting there and saying, wait, you're giving me everything through a fire hose. I understand that. But at the same time, where are my resources? Because I want to be successful. And if I don't have those resources and you can't give that to me, you're not the organization I need to be with.
Right.
It's okay to say that. It's okay to decline.
I think it's a little hard for people to decline if somebody actually wants you. Like, oh, you want me? I don't want you, but you want me?
Yeah. But then it's that situation, you're jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Right.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know
benefit anyone.
The last like 2 positions I had were basically created when I got there. So there was no real training situation going on. It's the fly by the seat of your pants type of thing. And okay, well, talk to whoever you can talk to that's around you, that's going to help you out. That's basically what I got out of that, so it's definitely good to know before you actually get there, to know what you're walking into.
And let me tell you, there are some people that I let know, okay, this is a new organization and we are pretty much doing a lot of breakthrough. Can you handle that? And I've gotten some people on board. They had very little to go off of, and they made the program exceptional. And because of what they knew prior to getting the position, they already had the experience. They knew how to take something from nothing into fabulous, best standards. I have to have this type of program. We've gotten people on board that allowed other agencies to say, I need to mimic what you're doing. Can you give that to me? And we partnered with those different organizations, but it was because of the people that I hired and letting them know ahead of time, is this the type of environment you want? Creativity. Some people love to be that creative person. Some people love to be that, I want to be the first, or they have the drive to do X, whatever that happens to be, because that's their belly button. That's what charges them. That's why they left their other organization, because everything was probably already standardized. It became mundane. It's the same thing over and over again, like Groundhog Day. So there wasn't a challenge for that type of person. And then they get to a place that they're told, oh, we're pretty much baseline right now. We're growing. We need development. They are so on board and eager to start. Eager.
I think that's a part of the process also, knowing exactly what you want before you walk into any job. And unfortunately, there are some people who don't know what they want to do, or, how they want to accomplish whatever it is that they want. So they just take anything, like, okay, well, you're going to give me the job, I'll take it. And then they're miserable at that job because of, these factors that they didn't consider.
Absolutely.
So
which I've got, wait a minute, before you start, I have something to say. This is good advice as well. When an interviewer asks you, tell me about a time where you made a decision that wasn't practical, or a mistake that you've done. Don't say you've never made a mistake. You can make a mistake a positive. Here's a situation. I didn't network properly, and stakeholders that I thought were the proper persons or people to go to for this particular project my director gave me turned out to yield nothing, zero. So my action was I learned from that mistake, and I went to my director. I let my director immediately know I contacted the wrong people. This is going to push our deadline even further. Can you give me any assistance? And we talked about that. And the result was I went to the right people after conferring with my director and letting my pride down for just that 1 second, and yield a great product after that, and develop some great networking people for our next project. So again, the situation is there, the action is there, and the result is there. But don't say that you never made a mistake. I've heard people say that so many times, thinking that was better for them to say that they've never made a mistake. But what I'm looking for, what a lot of hiring officials are looking for, is when you do make that mistake, because we have different programs, what would be your action? Would you have enough humility to come to me and say, I'm getting ready to make a mistake, or I made a mistake, or this could turn out bad? I'm looking for somebody that can communicate. I'm looking for that, what I call professional maturity, to say, you know what, this is going to turn out bad if I don't involve you right now.
Right, right.
You have to have that professional maturity.
Now, I remember when my sister Clarissa was a little younger, and she had some situation go on. I forgot what it was. And I told her to talk to you, and she said, okay. So I kept asking you, has she spoken to you? Has she spoken to you? You said no. And then when she finally did speak to you, I think you might have been the one who brought it up. And she said, well, I didn't come up to you because I knew if I were to speak to you, I know that I would have to have I would have to have a conclusion, or I would have to mitigate what I did to, or
she has to have a plan.
She has to have a plan, and have not just one plan, but a plan A and 3. A plan B, before we had the conversation.
Exactly.
Right. So it should be that type of situation also, like, okay, yes, I made a mistake, but this is what I think I should do to correct it. Can you assist me in finding the best way to resolve this issue?
Absolutely.
Always a teaching moment with Gunny.
Always. So you told me to stay out of the military, you put me in Gunny. All right.
Like that. You know who you are to me.
I know who
Mom, aka Dr. Gunny, like
I know.
You want the problem solver, go to Dr. Gunny. She knows it.
Yes, please, let's get the problem solved.
Exactly. So during the interview process, you mentioned being confident in your previous roles and being confident in the interview. Not a lot of people are that confident, not so much in the interview maybe itself, but in their previous roles maybe. Like, is there a way to kind of bring that out of them, or how do they conquer that fear?
Okay, well, a lot of hiring officials will already expect some form of nervousness. So don't think that while you're interviewing that it's going to be, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm an idiot. No, we're already expecting that there will be some form of, I'm not as confident because I'm unaware. So get that out your head right then and there. But the best way is find that friend. Everybody has one, or somebody that you somewhat know that doesn't have a problem telling you the ugly truth, and have a mock interview. That's going to boost your confidence. But don't get that person that everybody has that tells you you're the moon and the stars, because you're not. Get that person that says you are an ugly pig and right now you are just all over the mud. Get yourself together. You're stammering. Get yourself together. Your countenance is all frowned up. Get yourself together. You need that person that will be on your personal panel to go over what that looks like, and have a script. Really, I script all the time. I tell the interviewers before we even start, I have written something down because it has to be read the same way for all of the people that are interviewing for this position. And then I read it. when you're applying for an interview, print out the announcement and highlight all of those things that it says on there, those duties, those functions that you've done, and that you know for sure you can speak to, or you might not be able to speak to it, but at least if you have it written, you've printed it, you've highlighted it, you're going over it in your head. By the time that interview comes around, it will go like clockwork. The best interviews I've had so far have been people that said to me, your term and our term at my current position and positions past might be different, but these are the words that I heard, so I'm going to speak to that. Oh my God, blew me away. Then I had a few that were just on the cusp. They can answer not all the questions. I have between 7 and 10 questions, depending on the position. And they really flopped, but they had so much perseverance and they spoke so well about what they did know, which was totally off the question that I asked. They didn't answer the question right at all, but they had so much potential. And what they didn't know is I had 3 positions. The announcement had gone out. I only had 1 position. But by the time it goes through the rigmarole of, selecting all of those that apply, blah, 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 and I finally get my list of candidates, I was given 2 more. So I was able to hire 3 people. So even though the announcement said 1, I had 2 extra. I hired that person because I knew, I can train this person up. I have a strong team. My team knows that teamwork is my key factor. And if they don't play well in the sandbox, we talk about that. And when I hired the 1 person that needed the most training to catch up to their peers, that one, I was glad I invested in that person because they were super fantastic. It was like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. So again, don't send any letters. But it's like you buy a puppy or a kitten from the pound and they know that they're leaving the pound. So they're going to be the loyalist dog or cat that you can possibly have because you rescued them. Right. Not saying anything about pedigrees. So don't write about that junk either. I'm
Why
just
are you
saying,
all up in the camera though? What do you do?
my drill instructor side came out.
Apparently, all you need is that knife and like.
Believe me, it's happening, but you can't see it.
Oh, okay.
But it's. I want to invest in somebody that's fine and investing in themselves. So don't be upset that you've bombed on questions, that you feel that you've bombed on questions, because this person, they said it wrong from the top to the bottom. But for whatever they were expressing, I understood. And I was like, wow, if they can bomb this way, they will be able to stand in front of the executives that I need them to stand in front of, sell them cheese, and they can't eat cheese because they're lactose intolerant.
Right.
That's the type of person I need.
Right.
I'll segue to another situation and then I'll let you ask your little happy question.
Okay.
But here's another situation where this person interviewed I only had 1 position for this one. And it was hard to choose. I had 2 that were really neck and neck. And I gave that person, because they were a person that could be, hired non-competitively. I gave that person's resume and name to someone else. And I said, you know what, this person will be good for your department. You might want, and that person had, I think, 2. They had 2. Yeah, I believe they had 2 positions that they had to hire for, and they were having a hard time finding a good person. So I gave them their resume and name, and they were hired.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened because I didn't keep track. All I know is the hiring official said, you know what, that was a good person. I hired them. I was like, okay, great. I didn't tell anyone that I was the person behind the scenes that pushed that resume over there.
Mhm.
And I don't think the hiring official said that either. I think they just said that they were giving their name, which is good.
Mhm.
I'm not a person that likes to hear somebody say, oh, thank you. Because it's not me.
Mhm.
It's them. And I can't take credit for that.
Right. They gave a good interview, and you made sure that they had the tools or the kind of like the push to get what they
Right.
needed. Right.
Mhm.
I understand that.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up now.
Is it okay to ask about pay during an interview?
Well, I'm
Because I've seen a little
you
bit of
should
both.
know, right? You really should know how much that is going for, how much that is going for. And I say not to, I land on the side of not asking, because what if I ask, is the position 80K or more? And that hiring official says, oh, yes, 80K, but it actually is 120K.
Right. You
So I
undersold
have
yourself.
just undersold myself, right? Or let's say I say 80K and this person is saying, no, it's only 50K. I guess we can't have this person. So
Mhm.
whereas I would settle for 50,
Right.
right? So, and that's why I use your own judgment, read the room.
Well, sometimes it's a little hard to do. I know I did one interview with a university down here, and in the announcement, it didn't give, you know,
Mhm.
the the cost range. And when
Mhm.
I got there, with the amount of work that they were asking me to do, I mean, basically, I'm doing research papers and I'm editing doctoral reviews.
Mhm.
Like, to me, that should say 50K plus.
Mhm.
And so I didn't think much of it. But towards the end of the interview, the woman asked me, she says, well, you have a master's degree. Are you okay with making $13 an hour? No, I'm not. you know and I'm glad you said something, but I wish you would have said it at
Mhm.
the beginning.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I mean, I guess that's where the question comes up, because some of these announcements don't have what they're willing to pay.
Mhm.
And then you say you get the job because they loved me at this place. They said, yeah, we would love to hire you right now. But when they said $13 an hour, I don't know how anybody can do much with that. But $13 an hour, I'm like, no, I can't do that,
Mhm.
especially with the cost of living.
Right.
So to me, it's always good to know up front, but how would you really know that if it's not on the announcement?
Do your research on Department of Labor, because the Department of Labor has what those going rates are for salary for those different occupations.
Mm.
So that should be number one. If you're going for a public sector that does not list their salaries, go to Department of Labor. Department of Labor will have a range for whichever position that you can do and are qualified to do.
Mm. Okay, I
And that and,
never
and that's your,
considered that.
oh yeah, that's your in. That's why I'm
Yes, you are. So how would you respond if somebody, a hiring official, is asking you how old you are? Can they legally do that?
no,
No, it's unethical, correct?
it's an illegal practice.
It's an illegal practice. So if they were to ask you how old you are, how do you work around that?
Everyone's different.
Mhm.
But I normally would say, that's a question that is against the EEOC,
Mhm.
and leave it at that. And then all of a sudden you have the job. Because what people don't know is if there's any question that is part of a legal practice, and you can look up the merit system principles, you can go to prohibited personnel practices. You can even go to the EEOC and type in illegal interview questions or unethical interview questions. And when they fall into that, the person, the candidate, can record that down, write it down, meaning recording, not as in a tape recorder,
Right.
and send a grievance to your congressperson or the organization, either one. And you make sure that you write down who the hiring official was, date, time, and what that question was. And then you have a legal suit. I don't ask any of those questions. Can you do the job?
Right. I've never been asked that question either, but I actually know of some people who were asked during the interview and they didn't know how to respond to it.
No, it's an illegal question.
Now, asking whether or not you have children, is that also an issue?
Yes, yes.
Because it shows
There's
signs
no
of
reason.
discrimination.
Right. Now, here's another thing that I'm glad you're saying these things, because sometimes people disclose that while they're talking.
Mhm.
And there's no need to mention that while you're interviewing. I know earlier you said, well, if there's a commonality, would you talk about that? Sororities, fraternities, volunteering associations, great, fine. If you want to move that in because it deals with the work that you're doing, deals with the work, that's fine, because it shows you have experience other than the day-to-day grind at whatever place you're working from. You also have this external factor with your volunteerism in a mentoring program, your volunteerism at Habitat for Humanities, any of those things that associate with the position.
That's excellent. So at the end of your interview, I know back in the day, I don't know if it's still in practice, but back in the day, they used to encourage you to write a letter to the hiring officials saying, thank you for the interview. Hope to speak with you again sometime soon. Should that practice still continue? Should it be a letter or an email?
It can't hurt. It can't hurt. It's always not. I really enjoy getting those thank yous, even though it could be canned.
Yeah.
I send this to everyone. And that's fine. It doesn't hurt, and it doesn't hurt.
Does it help? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Because during that interview, it's either you know what is needed or you don't. And a thank you letter isn't going to do it.
That's true. So in the thank you letter, though, if we were to write one, what type of things should be in it? Should it have something about the interview in it, or just a general, thank you for your time and your consideration?
Well, my practice has been, when I sent the thank you letter out to those that allowed me to have their email, or if I knew the email, or I always put down the position that I applied for, the date that I interviewed, and I summarized what I felt were my strengths. And I thank you. I appreciate your time. That's valuable. End of story.
The strengths thing is great. So as an interviewing official, as an interviewing person, what are some warning signs that a candidate shows you that says that they're not a good fit for the job?
When they say words like you, I'll ask them, so tell me about a time that you had to do something independently. And they say, well, the first thing you would do, I asked you what you do. Tell me what you would do. You have to put yourself in first person. I said, you must be as conceited as you possibly can for what you know you do. And when they tell me a lot of things that they've done, and I know that it takes a team to do, but they're coming out like Superwoman, Superman, it was all me. No, it wasn't all you.
I
We
carry
need to
the whole
talk
world
about
on my
that.
back.
Exactly. You need to talk about that because that's a huge factor for us nowadays. A lot of teaming, a lot of networking. So you might have to team up, meaning above what you are currently at, or you might need to team across the aisle, meaning contractors as well. You might have to team up with a contractor.
Mm.
That's diversity. What Tell me about that. Don't say that you've done it all yourself because I know you haven't.
Right. And you should show
Mhm.
something that says that you're a team player and that you can accomplish a goal even with a team environment. Because I know some people are like, well, with the team, this person's lacking, that person's lacking, and we can't get things together. But if I did it by myself, I can conquer the world, but it is good to know that, okay, you worked in this team and you guys were cohesive. And, even if you had issues, what did you do to smooth all those issues out to get the project done?
Mhm.
And I think employers do want to hear things like that.
Right.
So how do you know a candidate is not really engaged or interested in the position?
Oh, that comes out immediately. They get very anxious. Um, they start answering a question before you can ask the entire question.
Mhm.
And I mean in a disrespectful way, not in a way of saying, I'll start the question. It's a multiple question. We let them know. And before we can get to the second portion of the question, they're already trying to answer it. And I've had a few that were angry at the interview where, well, I've done this already. What? Really? Wow. Oh, okay. Well, that sounded like the other question that you asked me. Wow. Yeah, I guess you could think it that way. All right. And we get through the interview as fast as possible. Never any follow-on questions that are associated with it, because sometimes we will ask a follow-on question if we believe the person is just right there
Mhm.
on answering the question completely. So we'll ask a follow-on to see if we were right in our thought process and say, this person knows, they just stopped themselves. Why did they stop themselves? Because sometimes a person will be so nervous that they're answering a question perfectly, but you can tell from
They're
how they're looking
overthinking.
that they are going into not only overthinking, but more than one situation. So now their mind is cluttered because they've dealt with this particular problem or program or whatever we've asked in more than one way. So
Mhm.
now they just confuse themselves. Oh man, I got another example. Oh, I've got an even better example than that.
Mhm.
And that's fine. It's all the fun of the interview. You're learning the person that is the candidate that made the interview. So it's nice to see.
Is interviewing fun for you? Do you enjoy
It's such a joy.
it?
It
I
is
wish the people listening could see your face right now, though, when you say it.
such a joy.
Well, what do you want people to get from the interview process? Like, what do you want them to focus on? What do you want them to practice or go towards?
If I were queen for the day, I would say practice, practice, practice. Get that interview, the announcement, read it over and over again. Remember what you've done and use that as the way to answer anything that could be asked. I had one candidate that said, oh my goodness, the interview is tomorrow. I said, yes, I'm sorry for the short notice, but from your resume, you shouldn't have a problem. And this candidate was really flushed, but I need to study. No, from your resume, you will be fine during this interview. And come to find out from that interview, I believe she had a professional write that resume
Mm.
because for all of what was written on that resume, my questions would have been very easy. Even if she had done what I'm recommending your audience do, print out the announcement, read it, study the organization, the day you apply, and keep doing so until you receive a call, because it can take up to a month, because, especially if the announcement is 2 weeks long, because we're getting people nationwide and everyone's applying, not just you.
Right.
So keep studying, keep reading. You're more than likely applying for other jobs that are in that same category.
Mm-hmm.
So each time you print out that new position, you're studying that also. And guess what? Now you're rounding yourself and you're preparing yourself for anything that could be asked. That's what I can say. And please stop saying, oh, I'm so nervous. If you're nervous, you won't be able to, like I say, do your presentation in front of executives. That's what I need you to do.
Definitely. So one thing I've read somewhere that they tell you not to end the interview with is, when do I start? Is that true?
No.
Okay.
No. Don't say, when do I start? I'm going to give you another phrase.
Okay.
I'm excited about this organization and what I can do for it. I would like to know, when would be a time that you'd want your candidate to start. So you place that, you're playing tennis. You put that ball back into their side of the court, and then they'll be able to answer you on what that will be. And then, as I've done on several occasions, where I'd say, well, I would say that quote, and then the hiring official would say, we need somebody immediately. I said, I'm available immediately. You see?
Right.
So, or they'll say, well, it'll take us some time. It's like, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm available immediately.
Right.
So you're in a win-win situation. You're in a win-win if you're available immediately. But if not, then whenever you get called in, because all of the jobs that I received, and these are each job that I got was a promotion up. Those were by phone, not video.
Right.
And it was because I applied to positions I knew I could do, or I applied to positions that I said, you know what, I know the majority of this, I'm going to challenge myself. And I challenged myself during that interview in answering those questions that type of way. And on all of those, I got an immediate callback. It was funny. They said, oh, at the end of the interview, they said, oh, it'll probably be about 2 weeks or a month. I said, okay. And no sooner than I hang up, the next day I get a phone call asking when I was available by the HR person. Say, oh, does that mean I got the job? Yes, it means you have the job.
Sounds like it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know for one position, I actually did one interview at the end when they asked, do you have any other questions? That was my question. So when do I start? I'm ready whenever you are. And just as you said, that following week, I got a call back, and I was super excited. I felt very confident in that job. I think that's as you said before, that's kind of like the key to every interview, is being confident. But again, as you said, research, just so you can keep that confidence up.
Right. Right. The more you know of the organization, and just as you brought up, if you have the opportunity to see anyone's bio in there, just read up on that. I got one position same day of the interview. I was the last person to be interviewed, from what I was told. I competed against 5 others. But I did so much research because I wanted that job so badly that I told them about their strategy plan. I said, oh, so according to your strategy plan, I believe I can allow the department to go in this direction. And there was another part of the strategy. I said, and in this part of the strategy, I've already done that at my other organization, and we won an award for it. And I got a time off award. and a monetary award. So I got 3 awards really. And the director said, "You saw our strategy?" I said, "Yes, sir. I did. I pulled it out." He goes, "Well, that's great. Can you send it to me?" "Yes, sir, I can. All I need is your email."
Right.
And then I got the job that same day. But again, we don't know what we're walking into. So it's best to put your best foot forward. Just like the other candidate that said, "I need a day." The interview was the next day. I need some time to study. Study what? If this is really what you want, I called you during the daytime. That means you have, when you get off of work, till the next morning to study. If you say you need to study the organization, you don't get 2 days. There's times I can't give my analysts a day's notice on something that's come up from the top. They're saying they want an answer in 2 hours. So you're telling me you need 2 days? You can't be on my team.
Right.
Because my team, they are high performers. They will roll you over and say, "This person's not productive, ma'am." "Okay, well, they're still in probationary period. We will dismiss them." And now you're out of a job. So again, we understand about the fear factor. We understand someone's going to be nervous. We understand sometimes people talk really fast because they're thinking of so many different things at the same time because they've done it over and over again. We understand all that. But what we don't understand is when you are applying for a position and you know you're not qualified for it. Or you have someone building up your resume and you haven't even read it. That's happened. Yeah, so wait a minute. Your resume says here while you were at X agency that you won an award for blah, blah, blah. Tell us about that. I did. No, I'm not kidding you.
I believe you. That's why I'm laughing.
I did. Yes. "Would you like to read your resume?" I honestly said, "Would you like to read your resume?" And they said, "Okay." And I pushed it over the table and had them read it. I said, "Did that happen?" And they said, "Well, it happened so long ago, I have forgotten." Okay. Long ago was 3 years ago. Needless to say, that person didn't get it. That person didn't get the job, though they had a very impressive resume. You can also tell from the way the person speaks. I've had great resumes. Like I said, the resume is really your first interview because that is what gets you your verbal interview. And when the person came up against the panel, we said, "Wow, this person is really, you can't match what they've done, what they've accomplished. They write so well because they wrote it in narrative form instead of bullet form." And when they got in front of us, it was as if we were talking to somebody that was in elementary school, but their resume was at the graduate level. And I'm not saying use, all the alphabets when you're saying a word, but I'm saying at least I know that I can confidently say a graduate student would not speak in double negatives and say a lot of different things during an interview that you normally would say when you're talking to a friend, not when you're talking in a professional environment.
Right. So any other takeaways that you want to give to the people?
Be personable. Be your authentic self. I cannot say that enough. Be your authentic self in that interview. And please, if you don't remember anything else that I've said today, remember it is only an interview. And if you've gotten the interview, you have the job. All you need to do is show them that you know the work. And if you don't know the work, you need to tell them you are willing to do whatever it takes except lie, cheat, or steal, to get the agency to wherever it is that that hiring official is looking to have. Here's one last thing. I've got so many things, but this one, at the end of the interview, you can ask, uh, is there anyone on a panel that mentors? And if so, I would like to have a mentor. That speaks highly of whomever's on there, because there's a lot of hiring officials like myself, we look to mentor people. I know there's been a couple of interviews that I had where people didn't make it. I waited until my candidates had gotten their final job offer. And then I reached out to them and I said, look, you didn't make my interview, but here's some things I'd like you to consider. You don't have to say yes, but I'd like to be your mentor to help you get you to where your next level is. And I don't think I had one. No, I didn't have not one of those that I asked if I could be their mentor decline me. And all of those that I asked if I could be their mentor, they were blown away. I said, no one has ever asked me that. I said, well, I'm not everyone, number one, but there are some that would like to, but we can't say so. We can't say that during an interview. We can't say, I'd like to mentor you. No, but you can ask and let the chips fall where they may.
I didn't even know that was an option. So that's definitely good to know.
That's mom advice. Yeah.
Look, when in doubt, do what mom told you to do the first time. Remember that, people. Remember that. Words to live by. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on to this thing called Life, L.Y.F, Love Yourself First. I'm Cola Taylor, and this is my mommy, Dr. Annette Taylor. We love you.
Love you too. Thank you.